I'm just ecstatic. I've been saying that a long time ago. The federal government should take over the D.C. Police Department.
Leroy Thorpe is a native Washingtonian who founded the volunteer group Citizen Organized Patrol Efforts, also known as the Red Hats. They walk the streets of Chinatown doing violence prevention work.
With the mayor being in power so long, I think she's kind of used to how things are going, and I think Donald Trump really wants to clean it up, and I'm all for it.
It is the Martha Zoller Show. So lots of big things happened yesterday, some local, some national. We're going to talk about all of them, and you can be a part of the discussion at 770-535-2911. Donald Trump came forward yesterday, even though he said nice things about Mayor Bowser in a Truth Social post. He didn't say bad things about her at the announcement, but she was not at the announcement like I thought that she might be. She actually had her dueling press conference, which, let me just give you some advice, Mayor Bowser. Don't ever try to compete with Donald Trump on a press conference. Okay? You're never going to get, because the news doesn't come out of the press conference you're giving. The news always comes out of the press conference that Donald Trump is giving. So just advice. She should have been standing there with him, because she perpetuated this myth that violence is going down in D.C. at the same time when someone is being investigated for jiggering the numbers about violence in D.C. in her administration. So set that aside right there. But the president came out, said that he was going to do this, and overwhelmingly on the street and from the Police Officers Union of D.C., they are in favor of it because they are dealing with something that they can't handle, and it is largely because they are allowing people that are, quote, young people to get away with violent crimes. That's what's happening, and there's these roving gangs of young people that are hurting people every day on the streets of D.C. So he had a great day yesterday regarding that, and he talked a little bit about the trip later in the week to Alaska. It looks like it's going to be him and Putin because he has said, President Trump has said, I don't trust him. He has led me down the primrose path before. And I'll know within 2 minutes if we're going to be able to get to a deal. And I would not be surprised if President Zelensky showed up, although recently my predictions have not been very good. But closer to home, Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones did get the endorsement of Donald Trump. And I think there's two reasons why. I still stand by that Donald Trump is not going to be that involved in state races because he wants to keep the House and the Senate, and he wants to flip this Georgia seat. He'll get involved in this Georgia Senate seat. But I think that there is such a long-term relationship between Lieutenant Governor Jones and President Trump because he was the first elected official, not just in Georgia, but in the country, to come out for him in 2015, right after he came down the escalator, or not too long after he came down the escalator. So he got that endorsement, but it's twofold. It's not only an endorsement for Burt Jones, okay, but it's also an endorsement to try to keep Brad Raffensperger out of this race because there's more and more noise that Brad Raffensperger may get into the governor's race. He is a self-funder like Burt Jones is. He is able to stroke a check to keep him competitive, and there is one person more than Brian Kemp that Donald Trump doesn't like. It is Brad Raffensperger. So that's the reason why I think he got involved in this race. Now, I don't know what endorsements mean. In the case of Burt Jones in 2022, he is the only Trump endorsee that had competition that ended up in the general election to get more than 50% and not go into a runoff of any of that. He was the most successful Trump endorsee of the cycle in Georgia. Okay? So it may help him. Okay? It may help him. I am supporting Chris Carr. I always want to be completely full disclosure on that. I am on his staff, and I am trying to help him. But as you're going to learn here is I'm still going to be fair in the analysis because I don't do a good job for Chris Carr if I am not fair in his the analysis. Okay, but I'm not doing a good job for you if I'm not fair in the analysis. So this is going to be a good 24-hour cycle for Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones. They are actually doing a big governor's I don't know what to call it, a magical mystery tour for the NAACP where all the Democratic and all the Republican candidates for governor I created a new word, Logan, covenors, which is candidate for governor.
I'll have to use that one in the next article I read.
Yeah, covenors. Anyway, the candidates for governor, they're all going to be there speaking in front of the NAACP at a church in Atlanta, which I think is fantastic. More events like that where you can get everybody together, the better. I am very much in a place where we have got to start working together. This is going to sound like it doesn't mix in, but it does. Greg Gutfeld, who is now the number one late night person, went on the Jimmy Fallon show last week. And do you know what they did? They had an old school Tonight Show segment where you told a few stories, you laughed, you found you had things in common, and you talked about a game show that Gutfeld was getting ready to host. And you know what? The ratings for that night was the biggest ratings he had had since November of 2024. And he had a lead-in of a big NFL game before his show came on. And having Greg Gutfeld on there, it goes to show you if you have Democrats and Republicans, and maybe you don't only talk about politics, people are going to watch you. People are going to listen to you because our lives are not all politics. Sometimes I feel like mine is, but our lives are not all politics. So I just want to say congratulations to Burt Jones for getting this endorsement. It's going to be a great day for him, and we'll see how it all plays out. Later on in the program, we're going to have Bruce Lavelle on, who's going to give us his take on it and the take on the first 200 days of President Trump. I believe strongly that President Trump is going to be working hard to get these last two thorns in his side for the first 6 months, which is progress in Ukraine and progress in Israel, that he is going to be working very hard between now and the UN General Assembly, because they do not want the UN General Assembly to be all about Gaza. They want it to be about peace and progress. And you're fighting against the UN, which is an anti-Semitic organization that we should not be supporting in the United States of America. But we still do. So we've got to play it as positively for us as we can. Okay? So that is the time frame I'm looking at closely, and we'll talk to Bruce Lavelle about it later on today. Also, at the bottom of the hour, we're going to talk to Drew Eccles about a tourism committee, a study committee that he's bringing to Gainesville. Because you know what, folks? Everybody's talking about getting rid of the income tax. Everybody's talking about what's happening to their property taxes. Well, one of the ways that places like Tennessee and Florida have gotten rid and offset not having income tax is increased tourism. Okay? Atlanta's having some problems in bringing tourists to Atlanta because of the same kind of problems that they have in D.C., although in Atlanta, it's these roving gangs on these moped things, these electric mopeds. I don't know what they're called exactly, scooters, I think. And they'll drive around you and encircle you and then rob you. Okay, we got that problem going on in Atlanta right now, although crime has gotten better. But we've got to find other reasons for people to come here. And Drew Eccles is going to be working on that, and we'll talk to him about that later. So we're truly, this week, the theme is around the corner, around the world. We're going to be talking about the things that are important to you and telling you how they all weave in together. We'll be back.